What's going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about Rivian. Give you a quick overview of some of the data points, what shorts have been up to, and what's really just been moving it behind the scenes. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Rivian did close 2.42% on Friday, 9.55 the low. So it did have a crazy sell-off, and then 10.07. So kind of recovered with the broader market. A lot of volume though, so 79.2 million for volume, 35.5 is the average. So they did recently have their earnings, and as well last week did announce the launch of that joint venture with Volkswagen. So essentially that the market loved it, caused it to go up significantly. I did bring up in my pre-market video under trending stocks, so another YouTube channel that I did have, that a lot of that was already priced in. So it was kind of more of a artificial pump, if that does make sense. And this is why it was kind of short-lived. So I'm going to go over the technicals and stuff like that near the tail end of the video. But there hasn't been all that much in substantial updates from Rivian. So when it comes to their earnings, wasn't all that great. They did reiterate their year-end target, even though they did kind of cut it essentially. But still, Rivian's just been kind of just stuck in limbo. So with Trump coming in as well, so I think that's really been affecting EVs significantly, and potentially them killing that 7,500 credit isn't great. Even though Rivian vehicles don't necessarily qualify for it for face value, a lot of people were getting it through leasing. So it does show that I guess during the third quarter, 42% of all the sales were leased, and obviously that was to take advantage of that 7,500 credit. So you might see a push in Q4 of similar nature, just to obviously get that 7,500 before it does get poof, possibly. But yeah, in reality, I think that is something to kind of consider, because that definitely will affect profitability and the timeliness of that if that 7,500 tax credit does disappear. But shorts have been really all over Rivian as of late. Even on Friday, they did increase 4.44 million shares. 18.95% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 140.97 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 1.02%. You do see some signs of manipulation. So cost to borrow minimum is negative 0.24%. It is a annual rate, so just kind of keep that in mind. But nonetheless, there is brokers out there physically paying people to short Rivian. So it looks like they are trying to drum up business, and it clearly worked, right? Like I said, 4.44 million shares were increased on Friday. So that did attribute to kind of that low of 9.55. Essentially $1.41 billion worth of shorts are in Rivian. So I think shorts have been starting to get more of a pain for Rivian. And aside from the joint venture, which caused the stock price to go up quite significantly, you're not having that much like optimism for the EV sector right now. And I think a lot of that, like I said, does stem to Trump. But moving over to options, 9.2 million in calls, 17 million in puts. Majority of the volume being done on Friday was just to collect premiums. So 46% of all the options were neutral in nature, and clearly with it around that $10 strike price, that's kind of the basis of that. But of the call options that were purchased, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $11 range. Not much more optimism aside from that. And then puts, you do see a consensus for it to be sub $9. And interestingly enough, you do see for the January 17th, 2025 expiry date, there was 13,000 purchased for the 750. So some people are anticipating for Rivian to clearly hit 52-week low, and I guess all-time low for that price point, or sub 750. So yeah, what is your viewpoint on that? With it closing on Friday right above 10, that does mean 12,000 is going to be considered in the money. Market makers come Monday are going to be equating to around 1.2 million shares that they do have to cover, because they don't have obviously a lot of volatile stocks such as Rivian and many others in their inventory. So they do have to go to the secondary market to buy that. But these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So rush of buying right here. So that was done after hours. That could be market makers already starting to cover it, but based on the size, it doesn't look like that would encumber everything of that 1.2 million shares. There's a big one right here, 7.4, 1.3. Couple buys. Obviously it did close fairly strong in the second half of the day, but this is what really kickstarted the selling. So a mass amount of selling all right here. So kind of crazy. Like, this is exactly what really laid the foundation for it to really go down very fast, and then shorts kind of took over and just brought it down even more. So that's kind of the basis of what happened on Friday. I'm going to go over some technicals and stuff like that, but first popping over to IBKR. These are the latest analyst ratings. And the reason why I want to bring this up is I haven't done a Rivian video in a while. So a lot of updates, especially post earnings. So you have a couple encumbering the whole launch of the whole joint venture. So you had Adam Jonas with Morgan Stanley, $13 price target, 52% success rating. And previously Adam Jonas was starting to become a little bit more bearish on Rivian, I guess based on his last rating, which I believe was 15. That is considered bearish still, I guess based on that, but based on where Rivian is at price point wise, $10, 13 is fairly good if you ask me. Then you have Stifel Nicholas, Stefan, 42% success rating, $16 buy, $13 hold, $12 encumbering their earnings. So you have all these right here. So you have 20, 14, 13, 19, 11 sell by Ryan, who has a 47% success rating. So analysts that cover EVs are wrong a good chunk of the time, and this is why you see very bad ratings. But nonetheless, all of them combined, $15 price target, and that does represent a 49% upside. But moving on from here, just to go over the Elliott Wave technicals, so it does have a pivot point of $8.95. So based on everything, it kind of bouncing fairly low. There's a little bit more of a, I guess, rebound anticipated. So it is anticipated to get between that 11.02 and 11.50 range, so more of a recovery, and that's clearly based on the bulls, the options. That's where maybe people are getting that from. But if it does break this $8.95 mark, then anticipate obviously the low 8s or 7s. But just generally speaking, this is what kind of happened overall. So with that recent news on the 13th, it did push higher, kind of touched that 100-day moving average, but not really enough to kind of stay there. So it did retrace quite a lot. And then because of it retracing so much, it kind of caused some people to look at just Rivian's technicals, and of course at the same time the market was starting to pull back, so it had a very aggressive pullback on the 14th and then kind of continued that on the 15th. So yeah, this is why if you don't have any emotion, like I kind of insinuated in my pre-market video, this whole news, why it went up, was already kind of factored into the price. Of course, I think there was some further developments and some more updates, but generally that's kind of nothing new. So this is why I really recommend a lot of people just to research options, because during this spike right here, I was selling covered calls like crazy, all expired, worthless. So that does equate to free premiums for me. So yeah, I think just the writing on the wall was that it was going to pull back. But aside from that though, if you're wanting to trade it in the short term with it at 10.06, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So $9.85 going into this upcoming week is going to be the next strong support, followed by 9.52. So we do know that general area is a strong one because it did bounce off of that on Friday. Flip side, $10.38 and then $10.91 are going to be the next strong kind of targets for Rivian to hit. And based on the Elliott Wave technicals, as long as it is above that pivot point, there is a rebound anticipated to get basically to this R3 and this R2. So let me know your thoughts on Rivian. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? Where do you feel Rivian is going bigger picture? A lot of my videos go over the current data and kind of short-term stuff, but bigger picture, do you think under the Trump administration any EV is able to survive? I think a lot of people are starting to really think about that and what that means for other EVs. Luckily enough, I think Rivian is seen as the only other contender, realistic contender against Tesla. So I think it's getting that kind of attention in some aspects, but Still, let me know your thoughts on Rivian. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. 2 things I want to share with you. Take advantage of this promo. It does give you 8 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. And then aside from that, I did launch memberships. So if you like my channel and support the growth, you can definitely join as a member. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.